This is Richard J. Tarpeys' memoir of his trip around the world and his military career. January 17th, 2011. Hello, Mr. Tarpey. Could you tell us all about your trip and a little bit about your military career?
Certainly, you jolly little soul. Okay, I left the USA from Miami, and we headed across the ocean, and our first stop was in the Azores.
Move in.
And
How long were you in the Azores?
just to stop and get gas. But
And
it was
you
a
were...
rather formidable place, I must say.
Why?
It was very mountainous, and of course it's out in the middle of the ocean. It's off the, just about off the coast of Spain. And from there,
And you were in the Army, correct?
in the Air Force.
You were in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And in what group and how many were with you at the time?
We were with the Air Transport Command.
Okay. And what year was this?
This was 1944.
So it was World War II, and they were stationing you where?
We didn't know at that time. We left the Azores, and our next stop was Casablanca. Now, everybody thinks of Casablanca as a rather festive, warm place. But when we got there in January, it was raining, and it was quite cold. I would say it was probably around 40 degrees. It was so cold. Of course, we were sleeping in tents. It was so cold that we all wound up sleeping in our clothes, including our winter overcoats, including our hats, and including our shoes. However, we managed to find a place where we could buy some whiskey, and that kept us warm enough that we had a good night's sleep. We left from, we stayed in Casablanca just about a day and a half, maybe 2 days. And our next stop was Tripoli, which is an oasis in the desert. Absolutely, totally gorgeous place. Unfortunately, a lot of it had been damaged by Rommel's forces prior to that. But we spent a few days there, and we got to see beautiful trees, and as I said before, it's an oasis in the desert. From there, we took off and we went to Baluchistan, which now no longer exists as Baluchistan. I don't know what it's actually called anymore. But that was a place that we stopped just to get gas. And of all the desolate places in the whole world, that was certainly one of them. I managed to speak to one chap who was there, and at that time they were rotating people. Usually after a year and a half to 2 years, they would rotate you back home for a leave. And however, I got to talk to this chap, and I asked him, how long have you been here, and how often do they rotate the people? And he said to me, this is a rather unusual place. He says, you cannot stay here any longer than 6 months. What would happen is the people, the men there, would actually go stir crazy, and they would actually walk out into the jungle and that would be the end of them.
Now, did you yet know where they were sending you, or you still didn't know where you were going?
No idea. And we continued on down. Let's see, where did I go next? Our next stop was in Calcutta. And we stayed there for a day. And that was a rather sad experience because it was rather poor, a lot of disease, and we finally wound up at our final place in
Karachi?
No, that was coming home. We wound up in India, in
Actually, it looks like Bangladesh.
Bangladesh, right, that's what I was looking for, that name. In Bangladesh, in a base in the town of Shamshanega. And it was an army base, it was an Air Force base, transporting gasoline over to China, because at that time, China was certainly our ally. And that is my trip going overseas. And that's where I was stationed in Shamshanega for a little over a year.
Okay, so you were there for a year, and then what happened?
Well, I was the war in Europe ended in March of 45, and I had made a bet with a chap that the war would end in March, but I honestly thought it was going to be Japan giving up, not the Germans giving up. But anyway, I won that bet. And they indicated to me that, well, since you are such a good prognosticator,